I hope I didn't fry your brain too much with that challenge. The idea is to change the main feature image, this image of white roses, and its associated tagline, up here, beautiful arrangements for any occasion, to match the season. And the solution lies in using a for each loop and the inArray function to identify the current season. Let's see how I did it. Let's go to the code first. And that image is on line 43. The image name begins with 980 underscore white rose, etc. We need to change that so it follows a more predictable pattern. So let's open the images folder. And there is the 980 white rose. There are also 3 images that begin feature underscore followed by a season name. There's autumn, spring, and summer. So this one needs to be winter. Let's change that name. Feature underscore winter.jpg. Now there were 2 arrays that I created in a text file. Let's get them. They're in arrays.txt. Let's open that, copy them, and we need to paste them into index.php. And they need to go in the code block at the top. We don't need this print r anymore. It was used in a previous video and has already been commented out. So let's just delete that and then paste in those 2 arrays. The features array contains taglines for each season. What we need to do is to find the current season so we can display the correct tagline and the correct image. And that's what the seasons array is for. Seasons array looks a lot more complicated. In fact, each array key has the name of a season, but the value is another array. And this is what's known as a multidimensional array. It's an array of arrays. It's not quite as scary as it sounds. Just think of it as 4 arrays. But instead of each array being stored in a variable, it's identified by a string. So we have an array for winter, another for spring, and so on. And each array consists of the first 3 letters of the months in that season. If you can find which array contains the first 3 letters of the current month, you're well on the way to solving the task. Now let's go to the top of this page. And earlier in the course, these 2 lines of code, lines 2 and 3, they get the first 3 letters of the month and convert them to lowercase. So we can use this variable, month name, to identify the season that we're looking for. So let's do that. Scroll down here, and what we need to do is to create a for each loop to go through the seasons array. So for each, that's a keyword, it's a single word. And then the condition is the array that we want to loop through. That's the seasons array. Then the keyword as. We need 2 variables, one for the key and one for the values. I'm going to use key as the variable for the keys. So that'll be key, then the double arrow. Very often when I'm going through a for each loop like this, I'll use the variables key and value. To make it a little easier to follow, instead of using key and value, I'm going to use key and month array, because what we're looking at are arrays of months. So month array. And then we need curly braces for the loop. So right, inside this loop, what we need to do is to make some decisions. We need to find out if the current month is in that array that we're looking at. So that's a decision-making block, an if block. So if, and then we're going to use the inArray function to find out whether the particular month is in the array. So inArray, and the first argument to inArray is what we're looking for. That's the needle, and that's month name. And the second argument is where we're looking, and we're going through each array, each month array in turn. So it's month array that we're looking in. And then we need our little curly braces. That creates our conditional block. So if month name, if the first 3 letters of the month are in the current array that we're looking at, we're there. So what we need to do is we need to get the current key and store that in a variable, and that's going to be our season. So I'll call that variable season equals key. Once we've found the month, we don't need to go any further, so we can use break to stop the loop running. So I'm recording in October. So the first three letters of the month are OCT. And what is going to happen is as this loop goes through, the first time it will go through, it will be looking at the winter array. And it'll look at it using in array. No, OCT is not in that one. It'll go through the next one. It's not in that one. Finally, it will get to the fourth one. It will say, aha, the key to this array is called autumn, so that becomes the season. Now we've got the season. It actually becomes very easy to do the whole of the rest of the challenge. So let's go down and find the tagline. Of course, the tagline has moved because we've put in extra code. There it is. It's now on line 59, and we need to delete that text, replace it with a PHP block. And what we're going to do here is we're going to echo, and we're using the features array for the taglines. And we need the correct season, and that's stored in the variable called season. And then with the image, instead of this long name here, we delete that name and we insert feature underscore, because all images begin with feature underscore. Then we need a PHP code block. And in that PHP code block, we're going to echo season. So what will happen is that the image will become feature underscore and whatever is stored in season. Make sure there's no space between the underscore and the opening PHP tag, and no space between the closing PHP tag and the .jpg. If there are any spaces there, of course, you'll break the file name. So let's just save that, go back to our browser and reload. And I've now got this tagline which says summer's over, but our flowers are still a riot of colors, and a completely different image. As I say, I'm recording in October, so I've got the autumn selection. Depending on the time of year that you're following this course, you're likely to see a different image and caption. Admittedly, this has been a much more difficult challenge than previous ones, and it might take a little time for the logic to sink in. Let's go back to the code and just have a quick look at it. What we did was we got the first three letters of the month with month name, and then we used our two arrays, the features array and the seasons array, and then we looped through the seasons array to find the current season. So it was a question of just finding the season. Once we'd found the season and stored it in a variable, it was very easy to display the correct tagline and the correct image for the season. So take a well-earned rest before moving on to the next chapter, where we'll start using the real power of decision-making logic in PHP.